Putin needs Bakhmut. Russian invasion of Ukraine. Let's go. If you want to go see other videos a week early, extra videos, extended videos, head over to our Patreon. Links in the description box down below.
Despite assaults from the Russian army in different battlefield sections, the Kremlin cannot brag about major advances.
He needs
Russia
Bakhmut.
continued making slow progress in and around Bakhmut, but it is very underwhelming if it is the anticipated Grand Russian offensive. Russia is expanding its manpower gathered through mobilization without achieving major breakthroughs, and the Ukrainian counter-offensive is looming, as more and more pledged Western military products are arriving in Ukraine. In this video, we'll talk about this and other important developments from the first half of March from the war in Ukraine, as the unprovoked Russian invasion of Ukraine continues. We'd also like to recommend a great way to see the free trial, and then 25% off a premium subscription, which is basically 2 for the price of 1 on top. Check it out.
Go check it out.
Let's have a look at the developments on the battlefield over the period of March 1st to 15th. After weeks of regular and unsuccessful frontal assaults on Vuhledar, the Russian army has still not succeeded in this section. Several new attacks have occurred on Vuhledar, but they resulted only in further losses of manpower and armored vehicles for Russia. The social media footage of March 8th shows that the 136th Motor Rifle Brigade elements have been deployed south of Vuhledar to offset horrific losses suffered by the 40th and 155th Naval Infantry Brigades. We should expect new Russian attempts to capture Vuhledar in the foreseeable future, but if the Russian army does not adjust its tactics and continues using very costly frontal assaults, Russian success is unlikely. Late on March 15th, Russian sources made unconfirmed claims of a Ukrainian attack on Polohi on the Zaporizhian front. The published footage proved that the Ukrainians retreated after losing at least 2 armored vehicles. We will see if this is a reconnaissance by fire attack or something more major.
Interesting.
Battles continue on the North Luhansk front too.
If they were just testing the waters.
Russia has been on the offensive for the past several weeks, but they have not achieved any decisive breakthrough so far. Strong defensive positions of the Ukrainian army in the forest area around Kreminna have helped elements of the Ukrainian National Guard and the 95th Air Assault Brigade to repel the Bars battalions and 144th Motorized Division in this area. Battles have also been ongoing in the Chornopopivka, Bilohorivka and Hyanikivka sections of the front, but the Ukrainian defenders are largely standing their ground. Bakhmut continues to be the main focus for both sides. Speculations about the Ukrainian withdrawal from Bakhmut continued circulating. The Ukrainians did not withdraw from Bakhmut in this period, but could not prevent the Russians from making further gains. On March 2nd, Wagner groups advanced towards Dubovo-Vasilivka in the north, Bilohora and Delivka in the south, and captured land in Zabatmutka, eastern Bakhmut. On March 3rd or 4th, the Ukrainians started their retreat from eastern Bakhmut and destroyed 2 bridges in the Bakhmut section, one over the Bakhmutivka River, and the other along the Kromova-Bakhmut route west of the city, to delay the Russian movement in this area. Evidently, at this point, defending eastern Bakhmut became untenable for Ukraine. The advance of Wagner units in the Bakhmut section enabled them to take control of half of Bakhmut by March 7th.
Yeah, they had to get
This was followed by a further advance in the north, as Wagner captured Dubovo-Vasilivka and advanced on Orikhovo-Vasilivka.
Ukrainian have to
on
leave
March
because
14th,
they could get
the Wagner units captured the Vostokmash plant in the north of Bakhmut, where Zelensky reportedly met with Ukrainian servicemen in December 2022. The situation in and around Bakhmut is getting very difficult and bad for Ukraine. The Russians are making gains inside Bakhmut and are expanding their control around the MO3 highway, which leads to Slavyansk. We have already talked about claimed artillery shell shortages that Russia is experiencing, but Ukraine is apparently suffering from the same problem.
Oh really?
According to a 93rd Mechanized Brigade officer, the Ukrainian army does not have sufficient ammunition to defend Bakhmut. He claims that the Ukrainians know about 75% of the Russian artillery's main firing positions and command posts, but do not have shells to eliminate them. He added that the High Command prohibits them from using Western weapons due to their high cost. It is difficult to understand how much of that is true,
but
several other Ukrainian and international sources have also criticized the Ukrainian command for not withdrawing from Bakhmut, since at this point in the war of attrition in the Bakhmut section is not as favorable for Ukraine as it was before. On March 6th, the German newspaper Bild reported about a disagreement between President Zelensky and the Commander-in-Chief Valery Zaluzhny.
Bit of gossip. All right,
Zaluzhny reportedly asked Zelensky to withdraw from Bakhmut for tactical reasons, which was rejected. This was followed by a statement from Zelensky's office, which said that both Zaluzhny and the commander of the Bakhmut section of the Ukrainian army, General Sursky, who was in charge of defending Kyiv at the beginning of the war, were in favor of continuing the fight in Bakhmut.
Okay.
Sursky has claimed that the Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut have forced Wagner's best assault units to fight and reduced the enemy's offensive potential.
Elsewhere.
On March 6th,
that makes a lot
CNN
of sense,
referred
actually.
to a NATO official who claimed that there is a 1-to-5 ratio of Ukrainian and Russian losses in Bakhmut. The Institute for the Study of War also argued that Russia has been wasting its offensive potential in Bakhmut, giving Ukraine a chance to seize the initiative in the foreseeable future. The fog of war prevents us from making a definitive assessment of the Ukrainian decision not to withdraw from Bakhmut
we don't
at this
know the
point,
true situation,
as it is impossible for us to verify whether the ratio of losses is indeed so unfavorable for Russia. But in this period, Russia continued its steady progress in this section of the battlefield, and if they keep up this pace, Ukraine would have to withdraw from Bakhmut completely at the point when their presence there would become absolutely untenable. It is notable that the United States has also reportedly
really
advised the
needs it.
Ukrainian army
So
to
long you
withdraw
hold it out,
from Bakhmut.
the worse you make
Russia
it look.
also gained some ground towards Pervomaiska and Krasnohorivka.
All right, agree with client and start time tracking. Great. So for Q4, I was thinking.
What are you doing?
In this period, a minor skirmish occurred in the border region of Bryansk, Russia. A group called the Russian Volunteer Corps entered Russian territory, wreaked havoc, and made a video calling for the Russian people to rise up against Putin. The Ukrainian government did not take responsibility for this incident, but Denis Nikitin Kapustin, who led this raid, told the Financial Times that the Ukrainian authorities approved this action. While this incursion does not change anything on the battlefield, it puts the Russian...
I think it could be true, you know. I think it could be true. Let me know what you think in the comments box down below.
I see you. You haven't liked the video yet. Why not? Go on. Go like it. While you're at it, you know you want to subscribe. And if you want to go to our social medias, all the links you need are in the description box down below. And you might as well head over to our Patreon as well, where you can get extra bonus content if you're enjoying this. That link's in the description box down below. But we'll get straight back into the video. Love you guys.
...on edge, and arguably demonstrates that this war can and will spill over to Russian territory. But Ukraine will need more serious success on the battlefield to change the souring mood of its people and allies due to losses in Bakhmut, and this can only be done through increased military support of the West. According to The Economist, the West has stepped up its deliveries significantly in the 3 months since December 9th, as the flow of arms has accordingly turned from a trickle to a flood. 40% of all pledges made by the US, worth $8 billion, have been delivered to Ukraine in this period. The Economist quotes a European defense official who claimed that the German military assistance in January alone equals 2/3 of all their deliveries in 2022. As a result, a third of the Ukrainian army will have NATO standard equipment very soon. This is helping with the Ukrainian plans for a counter-offensive, as its army plans to have 3 more army corps with 20,000 people or 6 brigades in each of them, which would be equipped with NATO equipment. In this period, Ukraine's allies continued pledging and delivering military assistance to Ukraine, which will be used in the upcoming counter-offensive and beyond that. On March 1st, Der Spiegel reported that the European Commission intends to increase its ammunition production, including 155mm artillery shells, drastically. The EU intends to allocate €1 billion to produce 155mm artillery shells for Ukraine in the short term, and additional funds for the long-term needs of Ukraine. The Financial Times later referred to the letter of the Ukrainian Defense Minister, Reznikov, where he reportedly asked the EU for 250,000 artillery shells per month. On March 3rd, the United States announced its 33rd military aid package to Ukraine, including ammunition for HIMARS, US-made howitzers, Bradley infantry fighting vehicles, and other equipment. On March 4th, the Ukrainian ambassador to Britain claimed that London would deliver 28 Challenger 2 tanks instead of the initially announced 14. On the same day, Reuters reported that the German military-industrial giant Rheinmetall is talking to the Ukrainian government about building a tank factory in Ukraine, which would cost about 200 million euros and have the capacity to produce 400 Panther KF-51 tanks annually. Also on March 4th, Saudi Arabia sent 168 tons of humanitarian aid to Ukraine, while NBC stated that Ukrainian pilots had arrived in the US to train on F-16 simulators to understand the time period necessary for training pilots. There have been several other reports about providing fighter jets to Ukraine in this period, but nothing concrete. According to Politico, the United States government is thinking about ways of solving the aviation issue of Ukraine before the start of its counteroffensive. One proposed solution is installing AIM-120 air-to-air missiles with a range of 50 kilometers on Ukrainian fighter jets. Evidently, the decision has not been made yet, as on March 15th, it was reported that a bipartisan group of US senators had called the Pentagon to figure out how to supply F-16s to Ukraine, since the war is entering the critical phase. According to Reuters, Ukraine has also asked the United States for cluster bombs, which are reportedly very effective against the Russian tactic of human wave attacks on Ukrainian positions. According to the advisor to Zaluzhny, Dan Rice, DPICM cluster bombs supplied from Turkey have been one of the biggest game changers of the war. With DPICM, it's like using a flamethrower against the whole anthill. Rice claims that DPICM has caused the increase of Russian daily casualties from 100 to 200 to 600 to 800 soldiers per day. On March 8th, South Korea approved the Polish request to send Crab howitzers, which have Korean-manufactured components, to Ukraine. Also, Germany announced that 18 German and 3 Portuguese Leopard 2 tanks would be sent to Ukraine in March, along with reporting that 2 additional Gepard anti-air guns have been delivered to Ukraine. Poland also pledged to deliver its promised Leopard 2s in the upcoming days. According to the Danish defense ministers, 80 to 90 Leopard 1 tanks will be delivered to Ukraine throughout 2023, with the first batch intended to be sent in May.
Look at it.
Also on March 8th, the EU reported that 11,000 Ukrainian soldiers would be trained by the end of March, while the number will rise to 30,000 by the end of 2023. The following day, Polish President Duda told CNN that Poland and Slovakia would give MiG-29 fighter jets to Kyiv. Poland has also reportedly supplied medical equipment to 8 newly formed brigades of the Ukrainian army. On March 13th, Norway confirmed its intention to deliver 2 more NASAMS systems to Ukraine. Lastly, on March 14th, Ukrainian Defense Minister Reznikov stated that Ukraine has started building a naval coalition with at least 3 unspecified countries already joining.
Interesting. Okay.
One of them is probably the Netherlands, as it was reported that they will supply 2 minesweepers to Ukraine in 2025. Reznikov also claimed that Ukraine is currently building its navy in Turkey. Ukraine will launch its counter-offensive in 2 months, according to the presidential aide Podolyak. More tanks and armored vehicles, along with artillery shells, have to be delivered to give the Ukrainian army a higher chance of success in turning the situation on the battlefield around once again. We're not even talking about such massive game changers as advanced fighter jets and long-range precision missiles, the self-imposed red line that Ukraine's Western allies have been reluctant to cross so far. What about military support to Russia from its friends and allies? There has not been much, to say the least. At the beginning of March, The Economist claimed that China was furious about leaked details of their potential military aid to Russia, as it could jeopardize their position as a neutral power broker in this war and worsen its relations with the West.
So they had to
on March 8th, Sky News released their investigation about ammunition and almost 300,000 artillery shells being sent to Russia in January. As usual, the Wagner Group and its chief created several stories for the media to report on. In early March, it was reported that they had opened several recruitment centers in sports facilities, aiming to get new recruits from aspiring Russian sportsmen. Wagner has even placed a promo on a certain orange-black website for adults, where they called on Russians to fight instead of watching cartoons. Stop it, Anichan, I guess. Given the level of casualties suffered by his group, Prigozhin has to find an alternative to prison recruitment, which he has recently been prohibited from carrying out. Apparently, the situation in the regular Russian army is not getting any better either, as more and more videos of mobilized soldiers complained of being used as cannon fodder in senseless assaults.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's scary if you're a Russian civilian. Oh, non-skippable ads, killing me.
Take a look at me.
Oh, hit me with a double.
In this period, Russia carried out only one mass attack on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure, albeit a very powerful one. 81 cruise missiles and Iranian-made Shahed drones were launched on Ukrainian cities on March 9th. For the first time since the start of the full-scale war, a Kinzhal hypersonic ballistic missile was used, and according to the Ukrainians, they didn't have the means to shoot it down. This was done in retaliation for the incursion into Bryansk Oblast. But if Russia intends to gain something from these strikes, they would have to be much more regular. Ukrainian services have adapted well, and Ukraine's power supply is much better than in late 2022.
Okay, so it didn't
For instance,
achieve much
Kharkiv had street lighting on March 8th for the first time since the start of the war. As the war continues, international tensions are escalating too. There are many rumors and claims, but the perpetrator of the explosion on the Nord Stream pipelines is still unknown. Several Western media outlets have recently claimed that Ukraine may have been behind this attack. This was strongly rebutted by Putin, who implied that such an attack could only have been conducted by a country with advanced technological capacity, like the United States. Different commentators and journalists have previously accused both the United States and Russia of conducting this attack, as the official investigation has not given any answers yet. To continue the topic of USA-Russia tensions in connection with the war in Ukraine, on March 14th, a Russian Su-27 fighter downed an American MQ-9 Reaper over the Black Sea, which was most probably conducting reconnaissance. The good thing is that this incident did not lead to any further escalation between the two biggest nuclear powers in the world. Speaking of nuclear powers, more reports about the increased diplomatic activity of China have emerged in this period. On March 8th, the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang accused the United States of double standards in supporting Ukraine's territorial integrity, while not doing the same regarding Taiwan. He also questioned Washington's warnings about Chinese military support to Russia, while America kept selling weapons to Taiwan.
I said that.
He called on the United States to focus on joint interests and responsibilities before praising friendship between China and Russia, which according to Qin Gang seeks a multipolar world, a more democratic international system, and a global strategic balance. In this period, the media also reported about an upcoming visit of the Chinese leader Xi Jinping to Moscow, which may be a powerful message of support to Russia. It was also claimed that Xi is planning to hold an online meeting with Zelensky after his visit to Moscow, which may further signal China's intention to step up its diplomatic activity and become a mediator between Russia and Ukraine. The war in Ukraine is about to enter another very active and bloody period. The Russian offensive in Donbass is going to reach its culmination at some point in the spring, at the time when the Ukrainian counteroffensive is anticipated to be launched. According to the chief advisor of Valery Zaluzhny, General Viktor Nazarov, the war will last at least another year. Indeed, it is unlikely that the current Russian offensive or the upcoming Ukrainian counteroffensive will end the war in a single strike, barring a major political or economic collapse for either of the sides. Thus, sadly, there will probably be tens of thousands more casualties in this meaningless war launched by Putin. At this point, according to the commander of the United States European Command, Christopher Cavoli, Russia has lost 200,000 men, including at least 1,800 officers, along with more than 2,000 main battle tanks.
We can't confirm.
On March 13th, American and European officials claimed that Ukraine had lost 120,000 men killed or injured. According to the Oryx blog, The visually confirmed equipment losses for Russia as of March 15th are 1,831 tanks, 3,817 vehicles, 233 command posts and communication stations, 638 artillery pieces and vehicles, 180 multiple rocket launchers, 77 aircraft, 79 helicopters, and 200 drones. For Ukraine, these are 475 tanks, 1,391 vehicles, 9 command posts and communication stations, 254 artillery pieces and vehicles, 40 multiple rocket launchers, 61 aircraft, 31 helicopters, and 87 drones. Thanks again to Blinkist for sponsoring this video.
Literally.
Check out our link in the description.
Crazy how little land has been made, how little progress has been made, and how much is being thrown into this war. Crazy numbers. I really enjoyed this reaction. I hope you guys did. But before we get into that, if you haven't already, head over to Kings and Generals page. That link's in the description box down below. If you enjoy my reactions, like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will catch you in the next video.